New virtual world will be taking advantage of the masterful Mayakashi trap. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. We have the Toon Gaming Case Tournament breakdown for you here. And this is actually pretty interesting because Branded Despia was our most represented deck out of this block, which, you know what, I will say, especially when you're looking at like the midpoint here for the meta, especially with people trying out these developments, even if it's just a short time out here, people are having fun right now with the interesting little stuff. And you know, Branded Despia still kind of holding on as one of your standard, you know, competitors is good. We also had one Fire King challenger out here. You know, seeing the fact that, you know, Fire's getting ready to ramp up into this crazy monster, I'm not all that surprised. We also had one Rescue Ace. Well, that's pretty normal, I feel like, at this point. Ace typically sticks around here, kind of does its thing, and then kind of just waves at you. That's normal. We also had one Manadium Duelist. Hey, you know what? Fieldspell.deck still sitting here in the meta, challenging a lot of the norms that I think a lot of people have had out here. I am very curious, kind of going forward, how this deck's going to feel post the next format, but we'll have to wait and see. We also had a Flunderies Duelist out here as well. And you know what? Let's call it what it is. You still know that, especially when you're on a little bit more localized environment out here, being able to do standard flu innovations is good. We also had Labyrinth. Oh man, transaction rollback. And speaking of transaction rollback, we had Virtual World stepping on into the meta here and showing that you thought that, you know, you were going to see some other crazy things. Well, being able to blink your entire opponent's turn with the use of transaction rollback seems good. Let's pass on over to deck list. All right, our first list we're going to be looking at here is the winning power of a masterful Mayakashi Shiranui-san. Now remember, this thing, you could tribute to Mayakashi or Shiranui. We don't play any of those, by the way. That doesn't matter. Neither player can special summon monsters from the hand deck or extra deck for the rest of this turn. Now, to everybody out here going, well, that doesn't stop the graveyard. I mean, if this is on turn one of the game, I don't know how you are planning on getting the chance to, you know, do anything. And now we're doing all this is through transaction rollback. But how in the world is this deck getting access to this? Dun 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 dun. It's this card. You actually just go Beatrice during your turn, drop down the Masterful or the transaction, and then repeat. But my favorite part of this is typically, if you're playing this deck, you will have the worst luck in the world, and you'll probably draw this card, and then you'll just have to use it as a free discard stepping stone along the way. Like, it's not really that terrible. The other big thing that you've got to understand is, like, you can still do Virtual World combo. Alright, like, this is just one little extra piece to get the game through your turn. But, you know, people don't know how to play against this deck right now. You know, Qinglong bringing out your Qinglong, plus the value you get on the double Chuche, plus the Zuan Wu for the level mod, is actually pretty good. Alright, actually I think this is the level modder. I always get these two mixed up. It always do be like that. But outside of that, I do want to say that I've got the chance to play against this deck. Virtual World has some interesting points in the meta right now. A lot more than I think people really want to consider. Also, you know, we can play Skill Drain. Alright, if your deck can play Skill Drain, then I feel like you're just a good challenger for the meta. Next up here, we had Flunderies. Look at these. So, you can typically tell it's going to be a pretty standard build when you actually see, hey, you know, we have one Feather Duster in the main, we side the additional two. I feel like that's pretty normal at this point. We also see the triple thrust in here. You know, being able to thrust into, you know, I don't even play talents. Hold up here. This is just, we're just thrusting for the Feather Storm for our value. Like, that's, or a pot card. Like, is that what we're doing? Like, the value that this thrust gives you is like not super good. It's just Featherstorm bait. Okay, or a Feather Duster. I also see that this build is playing some Dimensional Fissure in here as well. So that's how you kind of know that the meta is in a very interesting place out here, where you look at something like the Dimensional Fissures and you're like, hey, let's go ahead and collapse out your meta, and your opponent's just going to stare at you and go, I guess. You do be like that. Next up here, we have our first branded Despia list. Actually, I think this is the only one we have access to, because the other duels wanted to keep their list quiet. We have, of course, standard Gimmick Puppet in the main deck. It's either that or your side in this. I feel like more so than anything right now, we've seen more people pushing this in the main just to make sure, you can do the soft Gimmick Puppet log. We're also playing triple Allure Darkness. I feel like this is not something that you tend to see a lot of out here, but you know what? Especially in a deck like this where you want to be able to turbo for some additional resources, you're also playing 45. So, maybe you could make the argument to cut this. I don't highly recommend it. It was in here for a reason. And we're actually playing a Despia Theater. This is not normal, right? Like, this is a cute little tech choice we can actually toss in here just to, get some additional fusion summons up and running, but okay. And then, of course, hi, Denko Rekkas. How are you? I don't have anything else to say about this. This looks pretty interesting. Alright, we have, this build chose to play 2 transaction rollbacks. I don't have a problem with that. I think that, like, the value you get on the transaction rollback is incredibly good. Like, it does warrant, wanting to continue to play this stuff. Just to make sure you can resolve the big welcomes and blow your opponent out. But I do see something interesting here. We are playing the 1 Labyrinth setup here. Target 2 of your Labyrinth spell and trap cards that are banished in your graveyard, except for setup, and shuffle them into the deck. Then if you control a Fiend, you can set 1 non-Labyrinth normal trap card directly from your deck. This is actually interesting. I feel like we don't see enough people trying this card, but I do feel like this is for more of the later half of the game. Especially like if the game's starting up and you're kind of just starting the initial roll. Like, this card is going to seem like not so great value, but that's understandable. But outside of that, hey, good old Labyrinth out here. Good stuff. All right, what else we got back here? We have Manadium. So this is what I was talking about by just calling this field spell dot deck. Because you got triple Calarium, you got the 1 Raceloth, you got the 1 Paralineo, and you got the 2 Ryctophobia. Like, the entire point of your deck is to sift through all of these field spells and set up some interesting stuff. And then I get drawn down here to this majestic creature. This build is actually playing a Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. Typically, since we are playing the little Horus package in here, I imagine a world where you could actually be able to deploy this card on your opponent. I'm not saying that this is going to come up, alright? But I'm saying when you can see stupid ideas like this actually, working out here, maybe there's something to it. Maybe you want to have a little bit of fun with the meta, test out some different ideas. This looks like one of those cards that we could go with. Next up here is the Fire King Rescue Ace Hybrid. Most of us have been, ever since PAC kind of showcased this build to the world through the regional, we've seen a lot of duelists, taking advantages, because, the Kirin waves that you get with this, the ability to set up the punishing interruptions through your opponent, it just puts this pressure down on your opponent where they don't really get a good chance to play the game. And it's a little bit unfortunate just how strong this deck can actually be. I also see down here, you do see the 1 Fire Engine, you see the Impulse, and you do see the Draco Knight of Quest actually doing its thing. And then the Super Polys, Standard Muddragon, Standard Garua. Both of those cards have been so fun just to lose to off of the random Super Poly, especially the random Muddragon down here. But nonetheless, interesting. Is it really interesting, though? Or are we about to watch this deck get power crept on a meta evolution? And then we have, okay, this build is playing triple copies of Manadium Torrid. You know what? Sure. I guess I've seen everything out here now. You've got Fire Kings trying out this thing. Okay. Why not, right? Like, Extra Dex 14, you can adjust whatever you need. I also see that we have Solemn Judgment. You can have your ENT spells. You have a lot of, what looks like a lot of not fun for your opponent with a deck like this. You know what? Interesting. So what do you guys think about the breakdown for this event? Please, so comment down below, tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.